Experience the future of packaging and processing up close and in action. Explore groundbreaking innovations, engage with hands-on solutions, and connect with the experts transforming the industry. See how these advancements can revolutionize your products, production lines, and business. It all starts here. Don't miss out. Register today at packexpolasvegas.com/unpackedpod.
We interrupt our regular schedule of Unpacked with PMMI podcast. Actually, since this has become our new normal for the time being, these podcasts are as regular as it gets. Hi, I'm Sean Riley. Today we're checking in on contract manufacturing and contract packaging. Typically a segment of the industry that is built around changing conditions, we sat down with the Association for Contract Packagers and Manufacturers Managing Director, Ron Puvak, to see how the CPA and its members are navigating the current COVID-19 climate. All right, with that, Ron, let's jump right into the questions then, I guess. The assumption is that there's been, at least this is from what I've heard from other podcasts we've done and just kind of following this since this COVID-19 thing has really exploded, that there's been a shift in the needs, contract packaging needs since the coronavirus outbreak. Is this true? Is this the case? What have you guys seen on your end?
Well, I think yes. I think there has been a shift, and yet there's been kind of a growth at the same time. The shift has been into sanitizers, personal hygiene, cleaners, those sort of things, whereas many of our members maybe hadn't been in that area or that arena much, but now they're being pressed. They're getting a lot of requests to increase that size of the business, and that's obviously because of the situation. But on the other side, they're seeing increases in all of their products, especially in the food and beverage side. Obviously, we are a capacity-driven type group, whereas people need capacity, they come to us. So we were some of the first folks to be actually driven into this arena to say, hey, can you help us out? We really need this now. How fast can you retool? So yeah, there has been a shift, and I'm proud to say that our members have led the charge to help meet those needs.
So is this a case of, obviously, as we've seen, especially packaging and processing are kind of things that people don't really think that much about during regular times. And by people, I mean the rest of the world. And as we've seen with the food supply and the healthcare supply, and like you've mentioned with sanitation type stuff, these are all things that haven't gone down in use. Some businesses and industries, unfortunately, have gone through some tough times, but these things have continued to grow because we all need to eat. We're all trying to stay clean, things like that. Is that probably the gist of why there has been this overflow into contract packaging? People that have normally been able to keep up with it in their own plants have had to go to contract packagers and manufacturers for help?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. We're in an industry, we're growing at a 12.2% rate over the last 5 years. That's compound annual growth rate. So we were growing already at a very, very large rate. And, much of the business was coming from existing clients, Fortune 100, 500 companies looking to add SKUs, things like that. So we're just kind of seeing that shift now of capacity. I need this capacity now. One of the interesting areas has been the food service side. Whereas a lot of major brands have been, in the food service, their business has virtually slowed or almost stopped. And now they need individual packs. And they may not have been positioned to do that. So they've turned to contract packagers, contract manufacturers to help them get to that retail packaging versus food service.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So how have contract packagers, I guess, were they prepared, or how have they prepared for this sudden shift or increase like this?
Well, it's often been said that co-man and co-packs have a horizon about 6 months, and that's a long-term horizon. So in essence, we've always been flexible. We've always been capacity need driven. We've always had a can-do attitude. How do we help when somebody comes in the door and says, I need this right now? And we've always been known to quick to market, fast to market. If you wanted a product brought to market, you went to a co-man and co-pack because they could typically do it faster and at a better rate and pace than you might be able to do on your own. So we've always been available to increase capacity. And not that we were sitting on excess or idle capacity, but we had the ability to add capacity probably easier than you can at a large, CPG or brand.
Yeah. So as you kind of hit on, as an industry, co-packers, co-manufacturers are kind of prepped for things like this. They're not obviously not something of this, major of a scale, but you're used to adapting on the fly kind of to trends. And unfortunately, this trend that has come out of this pandemic is something that you guys are sort of prepared for.
Yeah, it's in our DNA. It's a core component of who a co-man and co-pack is. You don't know where that next big order might be coming in. It might be a phone call today or tomorrow. So we've always had that feeling like there's something coming, and we're ready for it.
Interesting. Okay, how about with the increased demand? How about maintaining a workforce? I mean, I know it's hard to find good, operators and stuff like that to work on these projects. How have contract packagers kind of coped with the demand and maintained the workforce with people getting sick that can't come into work, stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely been, I won't say a struggle, but it's been a concern and it's been an issue. I've talked to a lot of our members, and they're seeing a few things. Number one, there's been a trend in the industry because prior to this, as the economy being very good, it was hard getting temporary help, right? And we were relying on a lot of temporary help. So a lot of members had actually gone and moved those temporaries into full-time employees. So they were kind of getting a core group ready to, be there all the time and work as a full-time employee. And so, yeah, the temp workforce has always been something we've employed, and we've always used a high percentage of temps. What we're seeing, again, like you said, there are concerns of this workforce coming in because of the sickness. Do you have COVID cases at work, at where you're working, things like that? That's been a concern in the temporary workforce. But it's also an interesting part where I'm hearing a few members say, I've never had so many temps available to me now. And if you think about it, you look at some of these other industries that have totally shut down, people still want to work, so they've jumped into the temporary workforce. So I've actually had members say, yeah, I've got a lot more temps right now, because when the economy is not as good, so to speak, we get more people into the temporary workforce.
Okay, with that in mind, you have new people coming in that aren't usually in there. So how are contract packagers making sure that these employees that are coming in are safe and, healthy and able to be working amongst each other? Like what precautions, what things are being put into place or have been put in place to kind of keep things running smoothly?
Sure. Well, safety has always been a big issue in co-man and co-pack. Every plant I go into, it's amazing the amount of safety protocols they follow and what they do, and they ensure everybody is following them. They're doing really well. So safety has always been a big factor. This now health piece is a little bit shift to safety and health combination. And again, we're seeing people in a production line environment, which is really hard to social distance. If you cannot physically stretch out the lines, which many have stretched out the lines, made sure they had social distancing, they put up physical barriers, plexiglass barriers between stations, things like that. So it's always been preeminent, and they're very, very transparent about, what's going on in the plant. If cases get identified, they make sure the plant knows about it, and they allow people to say, if you're uncomfortable, okay, don't show up. We understand, but we're going to operate and things like that. So, they've been following a lot of protocols, a lot of more detailed cleaning. So yeah, they have been worried about the safety and health and safety of their employees, and they've taken steps to make sure they assure the employee that they're working in a safe and healthy environment.
Okay, going, I guess, a little bit away from that, and this is something that we've touched on with other podcasts with some of our OEM manufacturers, but it's going to obviously apply with co-packers as well. How are the co-packers, the co-manufacturers connecting and working with the customers in this, new environment where they can't necessarily go into the plants all the time to check on how the product's running or to come in for face-to-face meetings? Have any remote programs been put into place, or were they already being used? Could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. again, we're all living in the virtual world now, right? So a lot of that is being employed. A lot more phone conversations, email, you know, video conferencing, you name it.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's really been a lockdown, obviously, not only on the customer side, the CPG or the brand side, but also on our folks' side. As I was talking about temp employees earlier, allowing people that you do not know and you're not familiar with in your plant is a little bit dicey right now. So you've got to make sure people are following protocol. So to keep that at bay, a lot more video conferencing, a lot more virtual world type opportunities. And again, the relationships have been built for quite some time with the co-man and the brand. So there's that comfortable feeling, hey, yeah, I know you can do this. Let's make sure and just check off the I's, dot the T's, and things like that. So
Interesting. Okay. Um, we've kind of touched on, the shift on the products that some have had to move to making and supplying. Are there other, um, activities that you've heard from members that are kind of requiring their focus right now?
well, obviously safety and health and safety of employees has been a huge focus. They are there isn't a member I don't talk to that says, we've had meetings with people. We make sure, people are aware they're in maintaining safe, working distances, restructuring, break areas, you name it, all of those things. So that has really, really been a huge focus. The other thing is the close monitoring, of, where people have been. I mean, they don't ask. I mean, you can't ask everybody where they've been, but make sure they're aware that if you've been in an environment, let us know. That's been a new focus, and that's a little bit different.
Hmm.
The other is the closely monitoring of supply chains, because sometimes as a co-man co-pack, supply chains are dictated by the customer, and we're part of an integral piece of that supply chain. So helping people, and a lot of times what our customers are asking us to do is can you help us with the supply chain from a standpoint of maybe we can get stuff in, but we don't have a place to store it. Can we put it in your warehouse? Can your logistics help? So I think those are the kind of focus. It's a bigger, broader base focus these days on more in the supply chain than we probably have in the past.
Interesting. And that, again, is something that sort of everybody's facing. But like you said, it's not something that usually comes down to co-packers and co-manufacturers because you guys are usually sort of bobbing and weaving, for lack of a better word, to, the things that are happening. So you don't need to necessarily have that large supply, at all times. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct. That's correct. And then also finished goods. Sometimes finished goods aren't able to get out, right away, and they
Right.
need us to store them for a while. Or incoming product, or can you handle this because I don't have a place for this? And so it's those kind of relationships.
Perfect. I mean, that was basically everything I had to ask, Ron. I mean, I've heard some great things, and I think this is going to be really helpful. Because it's a different perspective on how you guys have had to adapt to this than, like I said, some OEMs or even CPGs have had to, because while you are prepared for these type of, trends, this is a much wider, obviously larger scale thing that you guys have had to deal with. So it's even put some pressures on you guys, even with it being built into your DNA.
Right. Yeah. And I think the whole aspect of, where the food is needed today and how it's needed, packaging and things like that is probably the one thing that has been the most surprising. And I guess we should have understood, food service being reduced and now individual packs. That's a big, big piece because people are buying more.
Right. Well, again, we can't thank you enough for taking time out of what is obviously a busy time for you guys to hop on here with us, so that our listeners can get a little insight into how contract packagers and contract manufacturers are handling the pandemic. So thanks a lot for coming on with us.
Thank you guys for having us. We're always willing to talk and appreciate the time.